You don't make the work to sell it initially. You're really following a thread of inquiry, or you're following something that catches your imagination, or just something that makes you excited. And so the grant making process is really critical because it gives you support that isn't tied to some sort of particular outcome, which is really at the heart of the creative enterprise.
The wonderful thing about the VMFA Fellowship is that it's an acknowledgement and it's also an award. People are recognizing the work that you do. That's just such a lovely feeling.
Fellowships and scholarships allow people to pursue really great projects and things that extra money is really, really needed for. And these projects, yeah, they add to the art community, and that's why they're essential.
The Virginia Museum of Fine Arts Fellowship Program is the longest-running privately funded fellowship program in the United States. It's funded Virginia's professional artists as well as art and art history students for over 75 years. What has become a solid and celebrated program of the museum, however, once began as a bold and unprecedented experiment. In 1940, just 4 years after the opening of the museum, John Lee Pratt of Fredericksburg donated 250 shares of stock, valuing more than $10,000, to establish the fellowship program. Pratt at that time was director of General Motors and past vice president. He and his wife were deeply involved in local and state philanthropy. In addition to quietly donating millions of dollars to universities, research centers, and charities, they also gifted the museum Mrs. Pratt's Fabergé collection. Pratt was as visionary as he was generous. He imagined a Virginia where artists could thrive and where art was accessible to the public. His gift to establish the fellowship program was made to foster the creative efforts of the Virginia artists and to aid the most promising Virginia art students, thereby enriching the art life of the state. The fellowship program was progressive on so many levels. In an era of continued segregation, the fellowship allowed applications from artists of any race, creed, or color. The first African American to receive a fellowship award was William Thomas Bland in 1948. 1 year later, Benjamin Wigfall won a student fellowship. Wigfall's paintings were purchased by VMFA for the permanent collection. In fact, many of the museum's holdings of works by African Americans acquired before the 1980s came into the collection through the fellowship program. From its inception, women were also encouraged to apply and have received hundreds of fellowships. Early notable recipients include Nell Blaine, who would later become one of the first women associated with the abstract expressionism movement. She also went on to win a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Women's Caucus for Art. As the fellowship experiment proved successful with more and more applicants with a high caliber of art, Pratt was impressed and committed additional funding. An original offering of 3 annual fellowships in the first year increased with the additional funding. Now, the MFA offers nearly 30 fellowships each year. To date, the museum has awarded over 1,200 fellowships totaling more than $5 million. Recipients are able to use the money in ways that best support them and their art, from buying needed supplies to renting studio space, to furthering their education or simply paying the bills. Or, as a recipient Daniel Turner said, "It granted me the most lucrative asset of any practice, time."
Before the fellowship, I was printing all over the place, but I didn't have my own equipment. And then, of course, after the fellowship, when that award came, I knew, well, now is really a great opportunity to buy this printing press. The work changed and my direction and sort of approach changed as a result. So I was able to be with the materials and the ideas and the process in a different way, in a kind of more intimate and regular way, and experimenting and kind of fiddling around and trying things. And what happened is I was using the press more as a tool. I still apply every year. I applied for 10 years before it came, and it was really out of the blue and really a big surprise. For every person that gets this award, there's so many people that are working really hard and with so much integrity and heart. So it's a great thing when it comes.
I think that you need tenacity to be an artist. I applied for this fellowship for 22 years. There's no formula, there's no super secret. They do change the jurors every year. But it's such a simple application. It's so fabulous. It doesn't cost anything. I make my students do it. I tell them, look, you're going to be an artist. You better get used to being rejected. I mean, it's part of the process. It doesn't mean anything. It isn't like God keeps striking you down. You know, you're just not. It's just not hooking up at where it should. And the ultimate wonderfulness is right here. This is it. I mean, making it, and everything else is, the rest of life.
I try and think about how can we circulate the funding that comes to us in the most impactful ways. So one of the things that I did with the $8,000 fellowship was employing a studio assistant. And so there's this sort of criticality that's really important to the artistic process. In the dialogue with another emerging artist who was saying, well, what about this idea? Why are you doing it that way? We're learning from each other. I'm teaching, I'm learning, she's teaching, she's learning. All of those things that should happen in a studio practice. And then also thinking about this lovely legacy and responsibility, actually, of being part of the legacy of all the people who have won it in the past.
Among the recipients, many notable artists have achieved national and international prominence, including Elizabeth King, Hugh Merrill, David White, Cy Twombly, whose paintings are in the permanent collections of the New York's Museum of Modern Art and the Musée du Louvre in Paris, Emmett Gowan, who later taught at Princeton University and has influenced an entire generation of younger photographers, Sally Mann, who has received numerous awards, including National Endowment for the Arts, National Endowment for the Humanities, and Guggenheim Foundation grants, and was named by Time magazine America's Best Photographer. Richard Carlyon, a charismatic Virginia Commonwealth University professor. He influenced a generation of local artists and was awarded 3 professional VMFA fellowships. And director Vince Gilligan, who said, "You could trace a direct line from Breaking Bad back through X-Files, back through college, and to the Virginia Museum, and how inspirational it was to me and how much financial aid it gave me." VMFA showcases past and current recipients' work in solo shows in a growing number of exhibition spaces, including a Muse restaurant, the VMFA Pauley Center, and the Richmond International Airport.
I was looking at the list of artists who had won in the past 75 years, and it's an amazing list. It's people who are my heroes, people who have been a huge inspiration to me, and also people who I hadn't heard of or hadn't known about. And you can look at this incredibly wide range of work that's been supported by the grant, and you can just see how important it's been to art making in Virginia.
As the fellowship has evolved and grown since its beginning in 1940, so too will it likely continue to evolve in the years to come to best support Virginia artists and the ever-changing practices of making art. Thanks to Pratt's insightful vision and to the work of countless staff and trustees over the decades, the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts has built a fellowship program with an impressive legacy.
Thank you to the art community. Thank you to the VMFA. Thank you to this wonderful group of artists in Virginia. Thank you to the jurors who have made this possible. Thank you to the funders who have made it possible. Without their commitment, this opportunity wouldn't exist for all of us.